Ladies and gentlemen, welcome today to another predictions video on the channel as we count down speed weeks. We are on the morning of the Daytona 500 as of me recording this, and boy, am I excited for today's race. I'm going to take you guys through my predictions, full depth analysis coming into today's race, who will be the favorites, who will be drivers to sleep, or I should say sleep picks, and who will be drivers to actually sleep during the race and probably lay an egg. With that is going to be my fantasy advice. You guys are not going to see my lineup before the start of the race this week because you guys are competing against me in the Fantasy Live League. So quick shout out to that. If you haven't joined the Fantasy Live League yet, or I should say in the description are the details on trying to do it. But I'll tell you again real quick here. You go to Fantasy mobile app go to the NASCAR mobile app or the NASCAR website, go to Fantasy, search KRC League after you sign up with your email. If you haven't already signed up for an outside league, and then click join. So pretty simple there. We'll have weekly prizes, as if you win, then you will get to voice your opinion for about a minute to a minute and a half on the following week's predictions videos that will be going weekly. And at the end of the season, if you win, I will buy you 2 tickets to a NASCAR race of your choosing for 2022. Thanks everybody for tuning in here today. So now we're going to hop on into my picks. You're going to see them on the right-hand corner of the screen. I was pointing to the left because that is where my notes are at for this video, but on the right side of the screen will be some of the more notable notes for those drivers I talk about. So first, we're going to start off with the don't haves. Here are drivers I do not want you to have in your lineup today. We're going to start things off with Kyle Larson. Larson has not particularly been known as a great super speedway racer throughout his career, although he did have a couple of top 10 runs as of late, finishing actually the last 2 Daytona 500s inside the top 10 with a 7th and 10th place finish in 2019 and 2020. The success for Kyle Larson doesn't go further than that. I guess that's the only silver lining in this because he's only finished 2 top 10s in the last 13 super speedway races. That's just not trustworthy enough. He only raced 4 races last year before, of course, having that debacle go on during the iRacing event which led him to his suspension from NASCAR, but he is back, and I think it will take him at least a few weeks to try and get back into the swing of things because of being out of a stock car for that long. He's really struggled in speed weeks. He didn't look particularly well in his dual race either. I'm not very high on Kyle Larson for today's race. I don't think you should be either. Now we go to Martin Truex Jr., who is the next driver on this list. Truex is also not good on the super speedways, but the quick silver lining is that he does have 2 top 5 finishes in the last 5 Daytona races, including a 2nd place finish in the July race. He does have a runner-up finish in 2016 at the Daytona 500 where he almost won, and it was by inches. But if you look at the recent success at Daytona and Talladega, it's not good. He's only got 2 top 10s in the last 19 races, and that alone just does not solidify a good shot. It seems like he's running up towards the front in these races. He won a stage last year at Talladega in the fall. You look at the fact that he does have 2 top 10s in the last 5 races here, but it's just, I'm not sold on Martin Truex Jr. on super speedways. This is the better of his 2 racetracks as far as the super speedways go. I think Daytona is better for him than what Talladega is, but at the same time, they're still not good. He did lead laps in the dual race, but again, I think he'll find himself in an accident, unfortunately, and a lot of it is probably not his own doing. He's just had terrible luck here. He's got the lack of confidence this week. He stated in his pre-race interview before his dual race on Thursday that he's still trying to figure this stuff out. The man is 40 years old. He's been racing in NASCAR, whether it's been the Busch Series or the Cup Series, since the early 2000s. Dude, if you haven't figured it out yet, that tells you the lack of confidence. He's never won on a super speedway in his Cup Series career, to add on to it. So Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson are going to be on the don't haves. Do not put them in your fantasy lineup for today's race. Keep your heart out of it if you're a fan of one of those 2 drivers. Now we'll go into our sleeper picks. This is actually really interesting. There's some drivers you would probably think, okay, well, duh, obviously there's a sleeper pick. And then there's maybe one on here that you can't, and I got a bunch of facts to back it up. We're going to start things off with William Byron. Willie B obviously won the last Daytona race back in August here. The that is how he punched his ticket into the 2020 NASCAR playoffs. That was his first career win. He also has a dual win in 2019, 2 years ago, and he performed really well in the dual race. The downside, though, with Byron is that he wrecked his primary car. He will be going to a backup car, and final practice that is, got rained out, so very minimal laps in that backup car for William Byron. I don't have a lot of confidence for that aspect of things, but knowing how good he is on these super speedways, that could be something very good to come. He obviously also finished second at Talladega in the fall last year, so he came close to winning the last two. He led over half the race, 31 laps led in his dual race, which I was surprised because he was racing well in front of the pack. There was three wide action a lot early, but he still found a way to lead 31 laps in the race. So we'll see if he can come from the back to the front. Obviously, you look at last year, he wrecked out early, but that wasn't his fault. Stenhouse kind of got into him. He'll be looking for a much better speed weeks. I think he'll have better speed weeks, but starting at the back, if they get into trouble early, he's not going to be able to avoid it. And he's going to be trying to charge as close to the front. Maybe you can find Kyle Larson, who isn't starting particularly well, and maybe they could work together to get to the front. But we'll see what William Byron can do from the back. But he is a sleeper pick nonetheless, so think about him at least wisely for your fantasy teams today. Bubba Wallace is another one of those drivers. He's looked just extremely fast here. Particularly, he runs well on the super speedways, even when he was with Richard Petty. It seems like he's towards the front at the end of the race. You look at the last two super speedway races last year, Daytona and August, he was going for the lead 4 wide in the final 10 laps of the race before the accident came about. And honestly, it looked like he had the run and he was going to make that epic pass, and Byron kind of moved down right into him. Byron probably didn't know they were 4 wide, but still, that unfortunately blew a tire on both Logano and Bubba Wallace's cars, sparking a huge crash at the end of that race. So tough break for Wallace there. You also look at Fall Talladega last year, where I was at, and he was running up towards the front for a lot of the last 20 laps until he got up in a big wreck there as well in the final 10 laps of the race. So a lot of similar situations, battling for the lead, of course. So that one was particularly his wrongdoing when he got shuffled out of line. Then he made a bad block, and things went wrong for there. Bad block on his best friend Blaney nonetheless. But yes, Bubba Wallace, that's the one downfall to him, is that he races well in the super speedways, and he's got competitive equipment this year. We've seen it in the duels also. Bubba Wallace finished second by a nose in his dual race, almost won that. He had the lead off of turn 4, very close before Austin Dillon edged him out at the line. And then you look at 2018, he finished second also in the Daytona 500 that year. He was 4th in qualifying this week, so he's got single car speed and he's got good speed in the pack. He was able to lead the outside or the inside line to the front, whether he was the push car, the lead car, it didn't matter. Bubba Wallace, as far as the race car goes, might have the best race car. He's got the best Toyota, in my opinion, and probably one of the 2 best race cars behind this next guy I'm about to talk about. It's going to be the drivability that Bubba Wallace can put on. This is only his 4th Daytona 500. He is relatively young to the Cup Series still, and obviously young to good equipment. That is going to be the downfall and the lack, is the fact that he struggles to get to the end of these 500-mile super speedway races, or super speedway races in general, despite contending for the win. So I think he's good for your fantasy team because he can be up front towards the beginning, middle, end of the race, because you want those guys to score stage points as well. You're trying to max out on as many points as you can in fantasy. But at the same time, too, he's got to make it to the end of the race if he's going to want a chance to win. I think he'll have a real good shot of winning. I think he will wreck trying to win if he does not make it to the end of the race. So expect him to be in the top 10 for most of the day, and expect him to lead some laps along the way as well. I'm sure he'll be able and be more than capable of doing that. Maybe he'll get a stage win. You never know. But that's kind of my analysis on Bubba Wallace coming into today's 500. Definitely don't be surprised if he goes to victory lane, because he's looked very good. But at the same time, I think you have some more experienced drivers on super speedways, and with that experience, that makes them a little better on the super speedways. Like this next guy I'm going to talk about, Eric Almirola. Almirola, obviously, his only 2 career wins came on super speedways, Talladega in 2018 and 2014 in the July race at Daytona. He's coming off a dual win the other night, and he dominated that race. They were 3 wide racing. The finish was crazy. That man still led 52 of the 60 laps, and it was all under green that they were able to do that as well. He was up towards the front all day. Him and Logano worked well together. I think Joey's another guy to look out for today, but as far as the sleeper picks go, Eric Almirola definitely is going to go on that list. Remember, he almost won the 2018 500. He was only about a mile away from victory there before Austin Dillon kind of got in the back of him, and right around went Almirola going into turn 3 on the last lap of the race. Eric Almirola definitely has what it takes to win at the super speedways. He's proven that before. To win in the big race in the Daytona 500, he seems to struggle towards the end with accidents, whether it's his own doing or somebody else's, and typically it is somebody else's. But he's also finished the last 3 dual races in the top 3 in particular order: third, then second, and then first. And he's led a lot of laps in all those. He hasn't led a lot of laps necessarily at Daytona in the super speedway races, but he has been up towards the front for most of the day. He scored a lot of stage points last year as well in the 500. So I look for Eric Almirola to run really well. Sleeper pick, and hint, hint, nudge, nudge, he might be on my fantasy team as well. Now we get into the must-haves. These are 2 drivers that you absolutely have to have on your team today. We start off with the obvious pick, Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's won 3 Daytona 500s all in the last 5 years, including the last 2. He looked really strong in his dual race, although he didn't get the finish because he ran out of gas on the last lap of the race while running in the top 5 in that dual race the other night. That was more on his team than him, of course, with not giving him enough fuel. In the race car, of course, they went to overtime. That played into a contributing factor as well because they were trying to maximize the least amount of time they could have on pit road. The downfall is that there's not a lot of Toyotas in the field, but that's been no problem for Hamlin, obviously, recently, especially in the 500. Denny Hamlin also won the last super speedway race last year in the fall at Talladega. So to add to his super speedway success, it doesn't matter whether it's this package that we currently have or the package before. He knows how to win on the super speedways. He is hands down the best super speedway racer today in NASCAR. So look for Denny Hamlin to lead laps and to contend for his 3rd straight 500. Do I think he can get it done? I think he's got a really good shot of getting it done. Honestly, I have him on my rankings for this week as far as his race car itself, not necessarily the driver. His race car, I think he's 3rd behind Eric Almirola and then Bubba Wallace. I think Denny Hamlin's got that 3rd best car in the field, the 2nd best Toyota. But the fact that he's got experience winning the 500 before, that is going to come really into play here today's race. I predicted him to win last year's 500 before he actually did it, and I think he's got a really, really good shot of winning this one as well, so look out for Hamlin, of course. Ryan Blaney is the next guy, not just because I'm a Ryan Blaney fan, but he has done really, really well in the super speedways. Of course, has won 2 Talladega races with this package. Remember, only 7 races have been run with the current package that they will use for the Daytona 500 today. And Ryan Blaney has won 2 of those. Although they are at Talladega and not Daytona, his Daytona success in recent years is awesome. In the last 4 Daytona 500s, he has finished 2nd runner-up and so close. Finished 2nd by a nose last year. So close to winning. 7 1,000ths of a second away from winning that Daytona 500. And that was a heartbreak, trust me. But obviously, he'll be up towards the front again today. He led over 100 laps in the 2018 Daytona 500. He has finished in the top 10. He finished 7th in that race and then the 2 runner-ups. So top 10 in 3 of the last 4 Daytona 500s. And outside of Denny Hamlin, nobody else can say that. And the combined lap total in the last 3 500s, he has led 135 laps, which is more than anybody else. So he has led more laps in the Daytona 500 than anybody else in the last 3 years. He has finished runner-up twice to 2 different drivers, Kurt Busch in 2017, Denny Hamlin in 2020, and that 7th place run. Also, he led over 30 laps in 2019, but got crashed out late in the race. So Ryan Blaney, definitely high on him to run well today. He is an absolute lock on my fantasy team, and I think he should be on yours too. That's going to wrap it up for that portion. Now, my prediction to win the race. So my prediction to win the Daytona 500 this year is going to be Eric Almirola. I think Almirola gets his first career win. I'm just sensing the fact that we're going to see a guy win the 500 today that has 10 or less career wins. And you usually don't see that too much, but you've seen it more in recent years. And I think Eric Almirola is a good candidate for that. I think he's got the strongest car. And I think he's got the capability. I think the only guy that stands in his way as far as super speedway talent in today's field is Denny Hamlin. And honestly, the Fords look fast as a whole, so I think there will be more Fords at the front of the race than Toyotas. That will come into play as well. If Blaney can run well, Logano can run well like they have so far this week and have in the past, I think that could be a good sign for Eric Almirola. Kevin Harvick looked really fast. The SHR cars in general looked fast, but Harvick looked really fast too. So maybe he can go out there and help him. Of course, Harvick has won a Daytona 500 before, but it has been 14 years since that time when he won the 500 in 2007, so that's why I don't have him on this list. But maybe he can help Eric Almirola win his first and get Eric his third career victory. So Eric Almirola, my pick for the Daytona 500. Comment down below your picks on the Daytona 500. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. We do full race live streams with a realistic broadcast every day, as well as other related NASCAR content. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Join the Fantasy Live League as mentioned as well, and see how you do against me.